Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined by Doom Crossing. It has been a busy week in terms of the video game world at large. Maybe not necessarily in terms of Nintendo, but lots and lots of different stuff has been announced and on the horizon. And we know that we got a Nintendo Direct not too far away. Doom, I see that you are wearing your Doom t-shirt. Very apropos. What's going on? How are you?
Yeah, I actually, I specifically wore this for today, and I forgot that I was wearing this until you just mentioned it. So, boy, am I excited just for that game alone. But I think we'll, as you can see in the title description, we're doing some Samus's percentage based on the Nintendo Direct, but there's been a lot of other, little directs happening, and while I absolutely do miss E3, we did an E3 retrospective actually at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I feel like this is the closest we've gotten to an E3, since, everything started going downhill, like when, right before the pandemic hit. And so it hasn't quite fully recaptured that, but it's really been nice kind of having, kind of a hint of that gaming Super Bowl kind of comeback, especially in, what has been a really, really rough year for the industry, to put it mildly.
You know what? And actually, we should, I guess, maybe give our pal Jeff Keighley, who will always be immortalized as Jeff Knightley on these shows, we should give him his due. Like, he did come out and say something, right? Which is better than nothing, which I think a lot of people were expecting him to. And, I've always kind of said, like, Keighley seems like a really nice guy. He seems like he means well. It just sucks to never see him kind of take a stance, because he has arguably one of the biggest platforms, if not the biggest platform in the video game industry right now. So it was nice to see him acknowledge that. I don't know what else he was really supposed to say after, like, beyond his remarks. I'm sure maybe, I think what people are looking for, he could be more actively involved in, like, maybe like retweeting, like, job posting, stuff like that. But I thought it was a step in the right direction anyways. Better than nothing. How about that?
So especially because, like, that's been one of the biggest criticisms. Like, I remember when, all those Activision scandals happened like 2 or 3 years ago when they first came to light. And, the state of California actually filed a lawsuit against them because of just how horrific some of those allegations were. And there was just nothing said at the Game Awards. And a lot of people, myself included, were rightfully angry at that. So, it's nice to see. It's nice to see Jeff actually taking these criticisms to heart, and, actually, even something as simple as addressing it, I think it really does go a long way.
I think it does, and like I said, maybe I'm just gullible, but he seems like a nice enough guy, like a good enough guy. Like I have to imagine it was something that he wanted to do. Maybe it's just something that he couldn't do at the time, or maybe he just needed to find his courage, so to speak, and do it. But either way, I'm glad that he mentioned something, because it has been a rough year for games, no doubt. 6,000 layoffs this year.
Oh, it's been more than that. It's been like 10 to 11,000 at this point.
Yeah, maybe it's more. I think the 6 I'm thinking of actually is that there was more layoffs in 6 months than there was an entire year last year. That I think that's what it is.
Yes.
Either way, just yucky numbers. For me, I don't know that the Summer of Games Fest quite replaces E3 yet, clearly. And you know what? I mean, honestly, like, for me, again, like, a big part of that is because Nintendo isn't there. They don't participate in that, and so that kind of makes it a little bit of a less exciting endeavor for me. But I mean, like, I do, I have my Xbox, my PlayStation. There was some stuff shown that I do want to talk about that I'm very excited about. And you know what? It wasn't like the most exciting thing to me, but it was probably number 2 on my list, and I feel like it's appropriate to get us kicked off. The Dark Ages. Doom, The Dark Ages. This looks pretty sweet. It's like a prequel to the 2016 Doom, right? Like, that's pretty cool. Like, it looks medieval. I saw that one gun where, like, they're using the skull as ammo, and, like, I mean, that's good stuff. That's good
stuff. That is
stuff.
the coolest thing I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I am so that gun alone like sold me on the whole game. But like, oh my gosh, like you get a chainsaw shield now, and then you can throw the chainsaw shield like you're Captain America. Oh my god, this looks like the most metal video game ever made. 2025, I am ready. Man, this looks so freaking awesome, man.
It
then
does.
it's basically a prequel to Doom 2016, which not that anyone cares about the story in Doom games, but you know, you literally wake up in a sarcophagus in Doom 2016, and you know, for those who are interested in why you're in a sarcophagus, you can play that game to find out. And this game is basically the story of what leads to the opening of 2016. So yeah, very excited. I mean, and again, we pretty much knew this was going to be there. You know, the FTC leaks happened, and we knew that there was a game called Doom Year One that was being worked on, and then rumors started about a week or two before the showcase that it was retitled The Dark Ages and it was appearing here, and sure enough, that did indeed happen. And yeah, man, id Software, one of my favorite developers of all time. They keep cooking. I'm so excited.
It just looks so gnarly, man. I'm just watching the trailer. Like, it just looks so gnarly. Like, dude, it looks awesome.
You can pilot the mechs now. So Doom Eternal has like all these mechs that are like all over the place when you like visit like, you know, when you like visit like not technically the Slayer's homeworld, but like, you know, his tribe, he was a part of the ones that took him in. And yeah, you get to pilot them this time. You can ride dragons. This game just looks, it's basically like, how do we make Eternal better? Just make it more metal, make it heavier, and that's exactly what they did. And so yeah, can't come soon enough.
It's just like medieval looking. I think that the Doomslayer actually looks like really cool. Like the spikes. I know it's just like a simple thing, but like, damn, those spikes look cool. It's kind of like when Samus had like the LED lights on. Yeah, like the shield. Just like, this game looks awesome. I was actually more excited for you when I saw this than I was for me, because I'll probably wait a while to get it. Like, I still got Doom Eternal up there, and I'm gonna play it, but like, I was really excited, and the game looks awesome. Like, it looks really spectacular. So I'm looking forward to play this. I think this is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I'm sure we're going to get more info at QuakeCon as well, which is coming up in like a month or two. So I'm very excited to see what they show off there.
Man, that thumbnail, though, for the trailer, like Doomslayer, just those spiky... It's kind of got, like, almost, like, watching the trailer back, it's kind of got... I mean, the series kind of have a little bit in common anyways, but I was getting some, like, Halo vibes to it, because it was more, like, melee combat, it was more, like, space, I don't know, like, there was something about it that I was watching it, and I was like, man, I feel like this is what Halo should be in, like, 2024, you know? Not what it is right now, which I don't even know what it is right now, but it's not what it should be. That I do know.
It definitely didn't give me Halo vibes. If anything, it gave me Quake vibes, which is another IP I would love to see it revived someday. But yeah, with kind of going into more of that like fantasy medieval direction, kind of reminded me of that first Quake game. Which Quake is another all-time classic FPS that I absolutely adore. I honestly like that original Quake even more than the original Doom, even though Doom is my overall favorite series. But yeah.
Well, from one FPS classic to another, so the game that piqued my interest the most, probably no surprise here, but I was really looking forward to seeing Perfect Dark. I felt like we had to see it at this showcase. It's been like 2 years or something like that since we last saw it, and we did get gameplay of Perfect Dark, and I would be curious your thoughts here, because I was watching this trailer and I was like, there's two thoughts competing in my head, where one of them was just like, man, this looks awesome. Like, it looks great, the gameplay looks great, the visuals look great, the little I was about to call it like the X-ray visor, whatever Joanne is using, like everything looks great. But I did kind of just be like, you know what? Like, there's something in the vibe that's just not, it's not quite right. It's a little bit off, and I don't know how to describe it any better than that. But like, the vibe isn't quite there for the original Perfect Dark, and maybe it shouldn't be. Like, original Perfect Dark is 25 years old, but like, I was just watching this, and it was too much like everything else that you'd see. It looked like it could have been anything, like any first-person shooter, like kind of the vibe that they were going for. Where like, to me, Perfect Dark was like this incredible sci-fi, cyberpunk, aliens, like wicked guns, like cheeky British humor, like. And maybe we only saw like the first little bit, like the first level or something like that. I also had some questions too, because it seems like she's hunting Carrington, who is the good guy, like the M, if you will, if you're making a 007 analogy. in the original Perfect Dark. But yeah, I was watching this, and at the same time, I was like, man, this looks unbelievable. But also, like, there's something just, I don't know, something not quite right. What did you think of that Perfect Dark trailer, as someone that doesn't have as much of an attachment to that series?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I think this looks insane. I will say, and I think it's fair to say, it does look, the game looks beautiful right now, but it still looks a little early. It definitely, I feel like this is going to be a 27 year title. I think we still got, I still think we got a bit to go on that. Maybe that's why the vibe felt off, or maybe just the overall lighting in the environment. Because I mean, it's called Perfect Dark. You associate that with, like, you know, these dark blues and these neons, and this is a very, like, brightly lit daytime scene that we're in, which you don't typically associate with Perfect Dark. Well, I mean, so maybe that also plays
there is
into
like a couple levels in the OG where, like, when your character's veal and stuff. So it's not like. It's not like, I don't know what it was. I'm having a hard time putting my finger on it. It's just like the vibe was just a little bit different, and I don't know what it. And maybe I'm just looking for, like, the same thing, you know, and that maybe that's just never gonna come. But I don't know. I guess I just need to see more of this game. You're probably right. I think it's probably a ways off.
Yeah, there's definitely another game that we absolutely should have seen more of, but we'll get to that later. But yeah, Perfect Dark. I love what I'm seeing so far. It's combining traditional FPS elements with, like, some of the movement options from Mirror's Edge, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
As, Mirror's Edge is one of my all-time favorite games, so I love seeing, I love seeing Joanna, jump on, like, those gutters and stuff and, like, shimmy her way down. And then there's, like, pole vaulting options that you would see in Mirror's Edge, and even Doom Eternal has some of that as well. So I loved seeing, like, all the movement options. There's, like, these really cool, like, finisher combos that you can do with the melee combat, and then she'll you can combo that into, like, getting, like, a pistol kill or a stun depending on what your gun is set to onto, like, one of the enemies. And I was just like, ooh, that's, like, a really cool, like, combo system they got with a first person game. I haven't really seen that before. That looks like it has a lot of potential. And so yeah, that's another one where it's like, I definitely need to see more, but from what was showed, I was very impressed.
I thought there was one point in the trailer that I thought was really cool, and I don't know if I've seen this in a modern FPS, and it maybe it exists, correct me if I'm wrong, but, like, there's one point where, like, Joanna kind of, like, gets an enemy down, she shoots the two other enemies, and, like, shoots this guy that she's got pinned down in the head, and I was like, damn, like, I don't know if I've seen that in an FPS, where, like, you can use, like, a live enemy as, it wasn't cover, but, like, at least you can, like, pin it down, like, kind of like, that's like some John Wick stuff. Like, that's what John does, you know?
That's just what I was thinking of. Yeah, that felt like, it's like a first-person John Wick, which I'm like,
and that was
hell
cool.
Yeah, give me that.
That was cool. So that looked good. I'm curious to see more of that. A couple of, I don't have a ton of games that I want to talk about. I do want to talk about Metal Gear Solid Delta, which Metal Gear Solid Delta /3 Snake Eater looks great. You know, it's. I don't know if this is, like, the most ambitious title in the world, like Konami. Here's the thing, like, I'm sure this will be great. I'll love it. I'll play it. But I don't know, of all the Metal Gear Solid games, if 3 was the one, you know, that you needed to remake. It's probably one of the most popular. It's my favorite. So, like, I'm looking forward to it. But, like, a part of me also can't help but think, like, it would have been really cool if, like, they were able to redo Peace Walker, for example, and, like, make it a traditional Metal Gear Solid game rather than the, like, quasi sorta-ish Metal Gear game, or, like, remake 1 and 2, just have that, like, as one big adventure. Like, I think that's still, like, found money that you could do without Kojima there. So 3 looks great, but I still do wonder, like, like, do we need this? No, not really. Like, it's kind of, this is how I would feel if, like, Super Metroid got a remake. It's like, this is great, but, like, do we need this? Not really.
100% agree with you, and I'm all in for, like, NES remakes, but, like, in that traditional that 3D Metal Gear Solid format. I think that's like a bona fide success right there.
Yeah, I can't believe it's not been done already.
Yeah, for real. Like, you update those NES PC Engine games. Like, I think you can hint at little story elements that happened prior in, like, 3, 5, Peace Walker and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of potential there. So yeah, I think that definitely that would have been the option to go. Maybe even Metal Gear Solid 1 had Twin Snakes not happen, but I feel like that kind of makes remaking 1 a bit iffy at the same time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I'll be honest, I would have even taken 1, I think, over 3, just because Twin Snakes is a pretty hard to find game, and like it wasn't like universally play. Like I don't think it's sold very well either. So like most of people's Metal Gear Solid 1 experience is going to be like the PlayStation version. I don't know. It's like it'll be great, I'm sure. Just again, like I don't know if we need it necessarily. I have one more game. Actually, I haven't watched this trailer yet, so I don't really have a lot that I can comment on, but I know that you did, and I know that Dak did, because we were talking about it today. The Gears of War trailer. So it's a prequel. And here's my thoughts on Gears of War. I've played the first 2, and I thought that they were really fun to play with somebody. I don't know if I love playing them solo, but they were really fun to play with somebody, but they weren't like it wasn't a series where I was like, wow, this world has really captured me. These characters have captured me. I remember playing Gears of War 1, and I was like, did we miss like the first 2/3 of this game? Like, what's happened? Like, what's going on in the world? Like, why is there... I can't even remember what it's about now, but I was just like... I remember just feeling like, I'm very confused, but like the gameplay is fun enough. So like, okay. So I don't have any particular attachment to the series. I haven't played Gears in a long time. I do think that Gears should be a bigger series than it is right now. It should be like the Hallmark, one of the fabled series in the Microsoft catalog, and it's not necessarily that. So I'm hoping that this is a success and kind of gets it back to what people know and like. And I don't know, it's bringing back the characters that everybody likes, right? Like, I don't think... Is Marcus Phoenix even in Gears of War anymore? I have no idea.
Yeah, he is. So basically, the new Gears of Wars, so like 4 and onwards, they take place about 25 years in the future, and Marcus is in those games as well.
Got it.
But it does primarily focus around, you know, a new group of characters, and yeah, that's the thing. I think financially this was the correct decision to make, because a lot of people are not into those new Gears of War games. I personally am, especially 5. I low-key think 5 is one of the best in the whole series. I think it does five is a really gutsy entry in that, you know, sometimes when, you know, a prequel or a sequel, it'll try to answer something in the past that was better left unanswered, and 9 times out of 10 it goes wrong. But for me, 5 does that in critical areas, and it works 100% of the time for me.
Right.
So I absolutely love 5, but I know that I'm in the minority opinion. Most people are really not into these new Gears of War games. And so I think this is ultimately the correct decision. And I think this game is still going to be awesome regardless. And, you know, I'm happy to see, you know, Marcus and Dom, the bros, back together literally at the beginning of E-Day, you know, the day the Locust invaded. The trailer, actually, it gave me a lot of Saving Private Ryan vibes. It reminded me of that horrific close quarters combat fight near the end of that film. That's kind of the vibe I got from that trailer. And so I'm wondering if they're gonna, like, you know, really make the Locust, you know, a really terrifying threat in this game, which I think would be awesome, because they do kind of turn into, like, you know, generic bad guys, you know, the more you face them throughout the games. And so I think having them as like this really horrific opposing force, I think that would be really cool to see.
Dak was mentioning that there was the Mad World like motif in the trailer, and again, I haven't seen it. I probably should have before we actually went ahead and recorded this episode. But I mean, I gotta say, like, I didn't absolutely like love Gears of War 1. I thought it was really fun, but like that was one of the most spectacular trailers I've ever seen. The original Mad World, and I saw it in theaters, and that was at a time when like I had seen very few trailers for video games in theaters. Honestly, still to this day. Metroid Prime was one, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles was one, and that was one. And like, man, that's one of the greatest trailers of all time. So even if it was like, when I watch this trailer, and I will after we're done recording, even if they bring back the Mad World, like that's exciting. That kind of like, oof, that's a good callback.
It's not overt. It's very subtle, which I like. I'm glad that it's not bombastic and in your face about it. It's just a very subtle, you know, little motif that references it at the tail end of the trailer, as Marcus and Dom look out at, you know, all the destruction happening around them. Like, it's perfect ending to the trailer. I will say, though, as somebody who does enjoy Gears 5, if they end up making a Gears 6, that's fine, whatever. I do hope at the very least there's like a novelization, so at least there's some closure on that story. Because 5 does end off on a pretty serious cliffhanger, and as someone who is invested in that story, I would really like to have that closure, personally. But if Gears of War 6, or at least that version of Gears of War 6, isn't in the cards, that's fine. I understand. And I think since that, because I was kind of disappointed when that trailer first dropped, But like, as I've had more time to process that, I think I'm fine with it now.
Whatever happened to that Gears Tactics game that came out? Did that ever come out?
I actually have it. I haven't played it yet. It's one of my 300 plus games in my backlog that I will get around to someday.
That looked good to me. That looked fun to me. I was thinking about checking that out one day. Okay, well let's actually jump ship here just for a quick second. We'll come right back because there was a PlayStation showcase this weekend as well. I think there was a PlayStation. There was Summer Games Fest had a bunch of trailers, and a lot of it was PlayStation focused. I have to admit, I actually didn't really see anything that really piqued my interest, if I'm being totally honest in that. The Xbox showcase kind of had like all the big stuff for me that I was looking for, but the other stuff, like there was I saw some people, there's like a Power Rangers game or something, and like there's Lego Horizon. Was there anything that kind of stuck out to you of like the previous days of the weekend before we got to the Xbox showcase? Because what stuck out to me was just like, man, is there ever a lot of sequels, franchise entries, reboots? Like it was like, this is like the AAA game space is going down like the Hollywood path that Hollywood's been on for the last like 20 years, where it's like franchises, sequels, reboots. That's what we like. So that was my takeaway from that, and nothing really. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I just missed something, but I didn't see anything that really stuck out to me on the previous stream.
So for the PlayStation showcase, I believe that happened during the week. I can't remember. I want to say it was like a week before, but maybe it was literally just.
There was
just
a bunch of
last week.
trailers on like the IGN Live and like the first couple days of Summer Game Fest this weekend. Like they were on. I think they were on Saturday and Sunday, something like that. I'm speaking from the kind of. I wasn't really paying attention, so maybe I've got my information wrong, but
Yeah.
I didn't really see anything that stuck out to me.
Yeah, well, I know Lego Horizon was at Summer Games Fest, but I think the PlayStation Showcase was like a week ago now.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say, regardless of that PlayStation Showcase, mostly didn't really appeal to me that much. Happy that God of War Ragnarok is coming to PC. Still need to play the first game, but good to know that they're both there. It was inevitable, but just cool to see more of that library getting ported to PC.
Mm-hmm.
And that Astrobot game honestly looks really cute. I'm pretty interested in that. I hope that comes to PC as well. Because I definitely I want to play some more platformers, and I like seeing Sony get out of that traditional cinematic kind of third person action adventure type of game. Not to say I don't like those. I mean, I'm playing Spider-Man right now, and that's exactly what it is, and I'm enjoying the hell out of it right now. But I also like Sony getting out of that space and going more into their roots of like these stylized platformers, and that's exactly what Astrobot looks like. So.
Yeah.
Really hope that game sells, and I'm definitely interested in checking it out if it comes to PC.
Okay, two final things from the Microsoft conference, and then we'll get to our Samus' percentages here. Number one, the Prince of Persia. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, story DLC rather, coming out in September. I already forget what it's called now. Mask of Darkness? Is that what we're doing?
It's from Ubisoft's conference, not the Xbox conference. Just a quick correction. That was earlier today. That was earlier today, actually, before we started recording.
Yes, apologies. Well, we learned a few things though. So correct me if I'm wrong about that. The story DLC for the Lost Crown. There is it Mask of Darkness?
I can't even remember right now.
Right.
Let me.
If we're wrong, it's got Mask in
down.
there, but anyway, it looks awesome. So, and I really, our Inspired by Metroid episode on The Lost Crown was like one of my favorite episodes of this podcast that we've ever done. So, like, if you need to be sold to pick up this game, you should go and listen to that episode because it was unbelievable. I'm really looking forward to that. And we got news that the Sands of Time remake is coming in 2026. I saw that and I was like, come on, like. Jeez. Why even mention it? Like, why even announce it at that? Like, if you are, like, 7 years out, like, it's like, what are we doing? Why are we announcing The Elder Scrolls 6 and it's not coming out for another 10 years? Like, come on.
And the way they hyped it up, too, like, it looked like we were, at the very least, going to get, like, a cinematic trailer, which, at this point, we deserve gameplay on that, but, like, at the very least, it sounded like we were going to get at least a cinematic trailer. No, they gave us a Metroid Prime 4 JPEG, which... That wasn't the right move. I will say I kind of assumed the game was just canceled at this point, so at least it seems like they're still dedicated to it. But yeah, that was a real bummer.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Last thing that I really only actually speaking of, the last thing that I bring up is a game that I feel like you're into, and I can't say that I'm really into it all that much, and that's the new Beyond Good and Evil game. I have to admit, I don't really think that much of the first Beyond Good and Evil. I don't really think it's that great. I don't know. I just although I did kind of like the cyberpunky aesthetic of it, but this game is like the new Skull and Crossbones or whatever that ship game was called that took an eternity to come out. But at least you'd see that game, and it kept on getting delayed and delayed. I feel bad for fans of Beyond Good and Evil.
To be fair, that was Beyond Good and Evil too, and that game, I'm convinced there's no way that game is being worked on anymore. That game has to be canceled. What I was disappointed didn't show up though was the Beyond Good and Evil remaster, which Ubisoft accidentally leaked last year when they released an early build on their subscription service and Game Pass by extension, because the Game Pass Ultimate comes with the Ubisoft subscription service, and so they were like, well, cat's out of the bag. Yep, we're doing a remaster. And they said that we're going to get new information this year in 2024. And so I thought for sure that we would get something here at the presentation, but I guess not. So hopefully they stick true to their word and we still get to see something later. If not, maybe this game needs more work done on it. But yeah.
That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about from everything that we saw this weekend. Really, really quickly, anything else you just want to shout out, and then we can get to Samus' percentages here, because we have a lot of Samus percentages to get to. We made you Metroid fans wait, but we do have a lot of Metroid stuff to talk about.
Yeah. Just quick highlights from the Xbox showcase. Never played a Stalker game before, but Stalker 2 looks sick, and I really want to support that studio after everything they've been through. Expedition 33 and Mecha Break, also from the Xbox showcase, looks like really interesting original IPs, and I definitely want to see more info on those. And technically not an Xbox exclusive, it's a Square Enix cross-platform, but I am a sucker who is very much into the Life is Strange series, and so announcing a sequel with Max Caulfield return is just an automatic win for me. So very excited for that as well.
I played the first Life is Strange, and I thought it was good. I thought it was good. I don't know if that's my favorite style of game, but it was good for what it was, I think. So I'm excited for you for that. Let's get to Samus's percentages here. We got a lot to get through here. We've got 15 or so. So we'll have to fire it up here. The first, so anyone listening to this that's never listened to a Samus's percentages episode before, the premise is very simple. The way that this works, I say a statement, and then we assign a percentage based on how likely to be true that statement is. So very simple stuff. And to ease everybody in, let's start off with just kind of a sample one where, and this is going to be Nintendo Direct focused, because we do know that the Nintendo Direct is coming this month. The first Samus's percentages, just to ease everybody in, is this. This Nintendo Direct happens next week when I'm away on vacation in New York City, and the percentage is 100% that's going to happen. I bet my soul on this. There's no other way, right? That's going to happen for sure, because it's going to be the most inconvenient for us to react, to record. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. I'm gonna go an 80 on that. That feels like an 80% to me. I'm feeling third week of June. That feels right for this Direct.
I hope so, man. I really hope so, because I want to be here for this Direct. As cool as it would be to watch it in Nintendo New York, and it would be cool. Maybe Dak and I could link up together, but I'd just rather be watching it, be able to react, record, because I think that this. I mean, regardless of what happens, this is going to be a big Direct for the Metroid series for sure. For sure. So, that being said, Doom, let's get to it. Are you ready?
Yeah. Actually, there is, before we do, I'll just make this real quick, but I'm not hyped for the Direct, but I'm actually very excited for this Direct, because regardless what happens, we're going to have a lot of questions answered,
yes.
By extension of stuff not being answered if that comes up, whether that be the status of Metroid Prime 4, whether that be the status of 3DS ports, whether that be the status of potential Switch 2 news. I feel like all of that information we're gonna have a much clearer runway after this Direct, regardless whether it's directly answered or not. So I'm very excited in that regard.
I think this is probably the last Nintendo Direct dedicated solely to Nintendo Switch. Maybe you could get one in September, but I gotta think this is going to be the swan song for the Switch's Nintendo Direct, since Nintendo came out and said, Switch 2 is coming. So we'll see. And you know what? Let's start off with the Samus's percentages here. No bigger question than this. This is a question on everybody's mind. Metroid Prime 4 is shown in the June Nintendo Direct.
This is a tough one, man.
I've got a percentage for you. I'm gonna
go 30. I'm gonna go 35%.
Damn it! I'm gonna go. Okay, just so I'm not the same as you, because I was gonna go mid-30s. I'll go 40%. 40% that it's shown. I don't know if this is my heart talking, because it does. In one hand, it does make sense for Nintendo to show Metroid Prime 4 to get it out for the Switch. I guess I feel like this. Like, there's a lot of people that are just like, oh, Metroid Prime 4 isn't a big enough game to launch a system with. Like, why you shouldn't launch it as a new system seller? And it's like, well, presumably, if Metroid Prime 4 is shown, it's going to be, we have one more thing to show. It's going to be the main event of the Direct. I mean, right? Like, it's got to be if it's shown. And that's going to be your big November game. So if it's big enough to, like, anchor your holiday, and I mean, I get it. Like, the 6th holiday or 7th holiday of the Switch's lifespan isn't as big as launching a new system. But, like, I feel like that argument to me is just kind of not totally valid, as we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, I'm going to say 40%, because I could see it happening. Nintendo's made a bunch of mistakes with Metroid in the past, and I think that this would be a mistake to show it. So yeah, 40%, and we'll see, I guess.
I will say, I don't think them showing it at the end of the Direct necessarily means it's the November game. I think they could easily put like a vague 2025 date at the end of that, and that could be something that they push to the Switch 2 marketing. It's not personally the choice I would make. I would just save it for the actual Switch 2 marketing push. Yeah. And just I would still do, have it released on the Switch, but you don't really focus on that. It's just more of like the promise that it's still there. But you focus on that Switch 2 version, the upgrades, that visual showcase, which is, what the Prime series is historically known for.
Right.
I think that's the way you market the game.
I agree, but I will say this just really quickly. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and if you show this game at like the last, like, let's face it, this is probably going to be a pretty lame Direct, right? Like, I don't anticipate there's going to be a lot of star-studded announcements at this Direct. And if you announce Metroid Prime 4 at this Direct for the Nintendo Switch, I think a lot of people just be like, oh, this is a crappy Switch game. When's the Switch 2 coming? And even if you do port that game over to Switch 2, I just feel like your first impression of Metroid Prime 4 is going to be, oh, it's coming out for the Switch in that crappy Direct that we watched back in June. Maybe I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my thoughts.
I'm not going to predict what the overall fan reception is, because I've seen opinions, wildly different opinions all over the spectrum. So I'm not going to speculate on what like the average is going to be.
Oh yes, you are.
One thing I do want to say though, regarding like, oh, Metroid, can't do launch on the Switch. Xenoblade Chronicles 2 launched at the end of the launch window for the Switch 1, and that is the best-selling title in that series. It released in December 2017, sold 2.5 million copies, almost as much as Metroid Prime on the GameCube.
Yep.
Best-selling title in that whole series, and I would argue, Xenoblade, while it is a growing series, both that and Metroid are fairly niche. It isn't Metroid level, and they were comfortable with releasing that launch window. I think that's absolute bogus that you can't do Metroid Prime 4 during the launch window.
I agree. Let's move on. So we're both kind of it could happen, but not over the finish line here. Let's take that question and evolve it here. And the next statement: at least one Metroid game will be shown at the Direct in some form or fashion. I'm high on this. I'm gonna go 80%, and I'll tell you why.
Ooh.
I think if it's not Metroid Prime 4, it could be Metroid Zero Mission coming to NSO. I think if it's not Metroid Prime 4, it could be, maybe they just port over Metroid Prime 2 and 3, just like they did with Pikmin 1 and 2. I could see that. I could see them holding it, doing that just to get us to the Switch 2. I could see a world where maybe Samus Returns makes its way to to Nintendo Switch, just like Luigi's Mansion 2, just like what was that other Miitopia or whatever. I could see that. I think those are your likely candidates, and maybe there's something that we're not thinking about. But I'm high on this. I do think that we see in some form or fashion some kind of Metroid representation, even if it's just an announcement like, Metroid Zero Mission is finally coming to NSO. Here you go.
I'm gonna go 45 on this one, and here's why. So I'm naturally gonna give this a higher percentage than Prime 4 because statistically we're including more possibilities now than just one singular game. So I'm going higher than 35, but I can't quite cross that 50 threshold. And the reason why is because Prime 2 and 3, I personally believe are going to be similar releases to the Pikmin 1+2 port. And that was released literally like a month before Pikmin 3. It was just kind of thrown out there right before that game released. And I imagine something similar is going to happen with Prime 2 and 3, which I don't think they would release those in advance unless they're getting full remasters like Prime 1. And as much as I really want that, just for Sanctuary Fortress alone, my God. But like, as much as I really want that, I don't quite think that's happening. I think we're just getting, basic, 1080p, the modern dual analog controls, minor quality of life stuff. And that's it. That's what you're getting, which is fine.
Which is fine.
But yeah, which is fine. But I think that's something that they're not going to put a lot of marketing energy to. I think that's just something they drop, about a month or two before Prime 4 comes out. And then that leaves Zero Mission. And lately, Nintendo hasn't been doing their NSO announcements in their directs. They've been doing that, and they've been doing those on Twitter. For like pretty much. Well, I guess we haven't really had a direct this year, but even like September of last year, we didn't have an NSO drop. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think during the June direct of last year, I don't think we had an NSO drop there. I think the last one we had was the February 2023 direct. And
this is my thought regarding that. Like, you're right, they haven't been it's just been Twitter. Like, even a couple days ago, they were like, hey, all 5 Mega Man games are coming to NSO. But I kind of think that this direct is going to be... People have been saying, like, it's going to be like that farming sim direct. But like, I really do feel like this is going to feel just like a direct to hold you over. That's the vibe that I get from this direct. So I think that I could see NSO announcements creeping their way in. We'll see. Okay, are you ready for the next take?
All right, let's go.
If Metroid Prime 4 releases exclusively for the Nintendo Switch in 2024, it is a guarantee it will be ported to Switch 2 at some point. So, to reiterate, if Metroid Prime 2 releases at some point this year, or let's even just say, if Metroid Prime 4 releases for the Nintendo Switch, and it is only a Nintendo Switch game, it's not cross-gen, it will get ported to the Switch 2 at some point.
I'd go 80 on that. That's definitely not my personal, what I think Nintendo should do. I think that would be a bad decision. I mean, at the end of the day, well, like, I'm going to be hyped when Metroid Prime 4 is announced regardless, like, even if it is a Switch 1 exclusive, but if I were to choose, that's definitely not the direction I would go. I would definitely release that day and date on both platforms, if it is going to appear on both Switch 1 and 2.
Well, I would too, just to be clear, but in a scenario where it's only on the base Switch, I'm going to go like 95%. I just can't fathom a world where you put all this money, all this time, all these resources into Metroid Prime 4 and you just send it out to die in the Switch's dying days. Like, that seems so ass backwards to me. And unfortunately, that's the type of thing that Nintendo might decide to do for the Metroid series, but I don't know. I really don't know if they're going to do that with this game. It's just kind of given, like I said, the amount of resources that have been put into it. So I'm going to go 95%. I can't see that scenario happening, but I've been wrong before. I've been real wrong before, so we'll see. Okay, we're on the Metroid Prime 4 train here. This is going to move away from the Direct specifically and just talk about the game in general. Metroid Prime 4 will have at least one area with a classic arrangement, similar to how Make More Caverns had Norfair theme, or Torvus Bog had the Lower Brinstar theme, etc., etc. So again, this is one thing that was certainly missing from Metroid Dread for sure. I mean, I think it's got to be over 50% in this, but I don't know how high I am on it. What do you think, Doom?
Tough to say, because all three of the games in the Metroid Prime trilogy have one area, like you mentioned. Prime 3 also has the Pirate Homeworld, Super Metroid. Absolute banger theme. Me and Stemage actually talked a lot about that one in particular. So yeah, go check out that episode if you want more info on that. But yeah. On the other hand, though, like, Prime 3 was, almost 20 years ago, and who knows if Kenji Yamamoto, Minako Homano, or Masaru Tajima are going to return to do this game, or if it's going to be someone brand new. It's tough to say what the direction is, and so I don't know. I'm gonna say 52. Just because that the precedent's there, but I'm not committed on it.
I'm gonna say. Would you say 52?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say like 60. How about? Because
okay,
I do think like I think that there's like got to be at least one area. Like I think there's gonna be the one area that's gonna have like that signature track, like Phendrana, like Sanctuary Fortress, like I guess I don't know if Metroid Prime 3 necessarily had that signature track, but like I feel like one area is gonna have this sort of like great original piece of music, and I feel like it just makes sense. Like it's easier to work to like build off something that you already know and love, and it's not like the Metroid series has really been spamming like old themes. Actually, it kind of has, but like there's like two themes in particular it's been spamming for years and years and years. So like, man, if there was like maybe there's a remix. I mean, at this point, you could even do like a remix of like the Chozo Ruins or like Sanctuary Fortress itself, right? Like those are old enough now where it's like you can update and remix them. It like doesn't have to be a classic theme. It could be some of those like Prime themes as well. So I don't know. I gotta believe that Nintendo heard the feedback about the music of Metroid Dread and is maybe kind of working towards upping that in Metroid Prime 4. I mean, that makes sense to me.
They absolutely had to have heard the feedback on Metroid Dread. I hope they don't just take that feedback and go, oh, the answer to our problems is we don't do new music anymore. We have to bring all the old music back. I think that would be the absolute wrong lesson to learn from Metroid Dread, and I hope that's not the direction that Prime 4 is going. I don't necessarily think that is. I'm just saying that would be a bad scenario if it did happen, at least to me. But yeah, actually, you brought up Chozo Ruins. Technically, that's already been rearranged in Prime 2 in the landing zone and the Splinter Hive. That and then Hunters actually has an arrangement based off the Prime 2 version in the when you first enter Celestial Archives. But that is whole other topic. I'm just kind of going off now, so I'll just.
Even some Hunters music, maybe bring it back, like I feel like there's got to be some theme that they're gonna do to bring back to like show just a little bit of fan service, right? And but I'm also not like incredibly confident about it either. It just makes sense to me.
Well, there's definitely Prime 4 is definitely going to have, callbacks to like previous Metroid music. I'm just unsure if an entire main area theme is going to be dedicated to it, like Magmore Caverns, Pirate Homeworld.
Right. We'll see, but I kind of think it will, but I don't know. Neither one of us are extremely high, so I guess we'll see. Okay, let's shift over and talk about something a little bit different here. The next Samus is percentages. The flash shift is now impossible to get rid of and is a fixture in all future 2D Metroid titles.
That's a 90s. Ooh, man. I want to go in the 90s, man.
I was just like, if
I'm
you
gonna
say
go 96.
Though, okay.
I'm gonna go 90. I'm gonna go 96. I was like, man, do I really want to go 90 on this? Yeah, I'm gonna go 96, man. Oh my god, the flash shift is so awesome. I mean, you know what? No, I'm gonna go 86 because I could see a remake, maybe not. Maybe like a Super Metroid remake doesn't include flash shift if they ever did that. I don't know, but I feel like all brand new Metroid games going forward have to have the flash shift. The slide is something I'm a lot more confident on.
Yeah,
is like a mainstay in everything moving forward, but the flash shift. Oh, I want to say yes. I think I'm gonna stick with 86 on that. Yeah, I can't quite bring myself to say 90, even though I want to, because it should be.
You know, I was gonna go high on this. I like probably like high 90s actually, because I don't know if you can get rid of it now because it just feels so right. It feels so good. You do make a good point about remakes though, and I guess I didn't specify if we're talking. I think if it's new 2D Metroid games, that number's got to be darn near close to 100, right? Like, and I would say the same thing about the slide. I guess you know what, I could see where like maybe if it's Super Metroid or Metroid Fusion, you don't quite have that. But I don't know. I feel like even if you remade those games, you're finding a way to bring those back to like, you know, as you know, I've been playing a lot of Samus Returns lately, working on a project, and one thing I'm watching my footage of that game, and it's just like sometimes it just drives me nuts. Like, I wish I could just slide. If I could just slide, that would be so great. And like, particularly Flash Shift 2 would help in some of those Metroid fights. It's just like, man, like if that game just had those two enhancements, like, oh boy, it would be awesome. So I kind of feel, yeah, I kind of feel like this one is really high. I think I'm still gonna go 90%. I'm gonna break the 90s. I'm gonna do it because I don't know, man. Like I just like, I don't know if I could play another 2D Metroid game and not have that sweet Flash Shift. Like that just felt so right immediately.
That's the thing. I want to break 90s because it feels right. Like, in my heart of hearts, I truly believe every Metroid game, remake or otherwise, moving forward, should have the Flash Shift or something equivalent to that if you technically don't want to get Aeon involved in, like, Super Metroid, for example. Like, you can find some lore reason to bring in something similar to that. It's easy peasy.
Yeah,
but, like, would that happen? Would that happen? I think so. Again, I'm still going 86. That's pretty high.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I can quite go 90 on that just because of like the issue of remakes.
I think that you're totally right. I think you could get around that though. Like if you're remaking Super Metroid or Metroid Fusion, maybe you just have like a couple new like suit options or something like that. Like extra upgrades, like the Flash Shift, like the Scan Pulse, the lightning armor, whatever have you. Like I think that, and they don't necessarily need to be tied to Aeon. Maybe they could just be like suit modifications or something. I think you could just like not over explain it and people aren't really they're gonna be like, okay, that's fine, I just want my Flash Shift. Because I think the Scan Pulse is now a fixture in Metroid as well, or like a version of that Scan Pulse anyways as well, so I think that'd be coming back in remakes of both of those games.
Yep, I agree with that.
Okay, back to Metroid Prime 4. Sylix is not the quote-unquote main antagonist of Metroid Prime 4, but does make an appearance. And we've differed on this before. We've differed on our opinions of it. Maybe not you and I. Certainly Dak and I, because I know Dak is just like, no, this guy, he's the main bad guy. He's your primary, he's like the Ravenbeak of Metroid Prime 4. He's the mother brain of Metroid Prime 4. And I'm going to go low on this. I'm going to go 30% because I just don't see it. I think he's going to be like a Dark Samus figure in Metroid Prime 2. Show up, fight him. Maybe don't fight him. I kind of have this idea in my head that I can't get rid of where it's like, I could just see some DLC missions like where you play as Sylix. Like, I don't know. But like the infrastructure's there. You've played as Sylix before in Hunters. Like it's you kind of have a blueprint for it. Like, I don't know. But more importantly though is I think that you don't kill the guy off. Like that's what I want to get out of this game the most. Is like I could live with him being the main antagonist, but like he survives because like I think you need like a new big bad in the series, or at least a new really interesting character in the series, and I think Sylix could be that. So I'm gonna go low on this. I don't think he's gonna be the main antagonist. I'm 30%.
Pretty much 100% with you on that, especially because you mentioned not killing him off. That's one of my biggest critiques of Metroid Dread is like Ravenbeak is such a cool character, and then they off him at the very end. It's like, man, I want to explore this character more. I want to fight him more. There's a relationship there that like there's so much you could do and explore with that, but it's kaput now. Yeah. And like theoretically, yeah, you can resurrect anyone from the dead. I mean, look at Ridley, but I mean, I feel like Ravenbeak is pretty much permagon at this point. I don't see him coming back. And yeah, I hope Sylix, becomes, a fixture, at least in like, a new Metroid Prime saga. I'd be fine if, he gets Dark Samus, at, the third entry of this new trilogy, but yeah, I feel like he's a character that you could build up and, keep going, going around and doing that. So yeah. What was the percentage you said again?
What did I say? 30, I want to say.
30. Okay, I'll go. I'll go 40. I'll go 40%.
Okay.
I'll go 40%. Yeah.
I could see, honestly, if they were to do this right, I could see like Metroid Revengeance or whatever that Metal Gear game with Raiden was called. Like that's what you could do with this character if you wanted to, right? Like it's an opportunity to release a Metroid spin-off that isn't, focused on these stupid chibi soldiers, and instead on actually someone that you kind of like and you think is kind of cool. So I think that is an opportunity for Silex. Let's go back to Metroid Dread for a second. Metroid 6 allows Samus to switch in and out of the Metroid suit in some form or fashion. Now, I think that this is a high one, but I put it on here just because, frankly, we've seen Nintendo just drop ideas like this before. Specifically from Fusion to Dread. And at the end of Dread, she absorbed that X-Parasite, which got rid of the Metroid suit somehow. But I feel like it's got to be still there. I'm going to go high on this because I feel like that's a really good hook for Metroid 6, using the Metroid powers. I'm not, super confident about this, though. I'm going to go 58%.
So you phrased the question in a specific way. So I'm just going to say this. If you're saying that we're going to switch to the actual suit, I'm going to go pretty low on that because of the ending of Metroid Dread. And unlike the gap between Fusion and Dread, which was, almost 2 decades, I would imagine Metroid 6, is going to be upon us in 2-3 more years from now. Mm-hmm. So I imagine there's going to be a much smaller gap. The same team at Mercury Steam is going to be working on it too. So I would imagine there's going to be a lot more consistency through with those through lines there. So when it comes to the actual Metroid suit itself, switching back and forth, I'm going to say no. But when it comes to Samus, utilizing her new Metroid powers more into her natural moveset as opposed to a cutscene here and there, I think that's pretty likely for Metroid 6. I feel like that's been pretty well set up at this point, and it sounds like that's a direction where pretty much everyone unanimously that played Metroid Dread wants the series to go in. Mm-hmm. So yeah, depending, I don't know if you want to change the wording of your question or not, or leave it the same, but that's gonna alter.
Yeah, that's
leave
fine.
It like that. All right. Yeah. I'm gonna go 20% then.
Okay.
20%.
Well, here we go. This next one is a spicy meatball. And as we were talking about earlier, well, let's just get to it, actually. Metroid Prime 4 is a Switch 2 launch title and is, quote-unquote, the game, the biggest game available for at least a period of 30 days before another launch title comes with it. So I'm talking the Switch 2 launches March 3rd, 2027, whatever it's going to be. Metroid Prime 4 releases day 1. There is a 30-day period where that's the game. And you don't get Mario Kart, you don't get Mario Odyssey, you don't get Mario Baseball until a month later. Metroid Prime 4's time is then to really make an impact. What say you?
I'm doing a 4% on that. I can't even do a 5% on that. That is a 4. I'm giving that a 4%. Again, I think launch window, absolutely. I think that drastically rises their percentage meter, well above 50% for me at least. But yeah, as a launch title, I just don't see that. I don't think that's the best move for Metroid or the Switch 2. I think you're hurting both of those, and I think you can strengthen both the Switch 2 sales numbers and Metroid's numbers as well by just, delaying that a little bit.
So I'm low on this, but I'm not that low. And I guess I'd push back a little bit on some of your reasoning. Not that I disagree necessarily with it, but I do think back to a console like the GameCube, for example. That console launched with Luigi's Mansion, which at the time was a complete nothing. That was a new entry in the series. And I want to say it launched with Wave Race. And that was it until December of 2001.
And Rogue Squadron 2.
And Rogue Squadron. Okay. And clearly, there's going to be other games available for the Switch 2 in this scenario, too, right? I've told the story before, but I will never forget in my entire life, the day I went to buy my Switch, day 1, there's, everybody there lining up for Zelda, lining up for the Switch, and this one dude is just there to buy Bomberman on the Switch, and he's lined up at 7 a.m., and I was like, okay, all right, rock on. So, they're clearly not just Metroid, there's going to be other titles as well. I think I'm going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to go 28%. And the reason that I think this is because I kind of do think it's certainly a risk. It's certainly a risk. But I think that if the risk doesn't pay off, there's no harm to the console itself. The console will be fine. That I believe. I do think that there is risk to the Metroid branding in that, where it's like, okay, if Metroid Prime 4 doesn't crush it in the first month where there's no other competition, maybe Metroid is never going to be at the level where some Metroid fans think it can be. And frankly, that'd be fine. But like, I do think that like maybe they want to give it a chance to kind of do that, considering all the investment that's put in. I can't go any higher than 28 though, just because of all the reasons that you said. It is true. I mean, it's not necessarily your system seller. I guess I just get worried where like if Metroid Prime 4, because I do think it has to be like a launch title, like within the first like really quick when the Switch 2 comes out. Like I would say the first 2 months, I think it's got to be. Like I think you could have one other game come out before it.
I don't agree with that. I don't think it needs to be the first 2 months. I don't agree with that at all. Again, I bring up Xenoblade Chronicles 2 again. That launched near the end of the Switch's launch window, December 2017. It is the best-selling title in that series, and that is a series that hasn't even reached the status of Metroid yet, which, you know, is in and of itself a very niche series. So again, I definitely think that you can do the launch window, or even just a little bit out of that launch window, and you can still make that a very massive title, at least by Metroid standards. Obviously, you know, I'm not expecting this game to sell 10 million or anything like that, or frankly even like 6 million. As awesome as that would be, like I certainly would hope so, but it's not my expectations going in. I'm expecting my expectations would be at least 3 million in Match Dread, hopefully 5 million. That's what I'm really hoping for, is that 5 million mark.
Well, and I think that's the thing too. Like if you launch it early, then you can keep on getting those sales, because like it's going to be an evergreen title. I think in my head, it probably makes sense. Remember when the Switch launched, I think Splatoon 2 came out in the summertime, and the Switch launched in March. That would make sense to me. But I could see a scenario where like they're just like, okay, Metroid Prime 4, you're up. This is your moment. Like, you're going to launch with the system. 30 days later, we got Mario Kart coming out as a failsafe. But like, you got 30 days. What can we do here? And maybe it's not impressive. Maybe it is better than expected. I don't know. But I don't necessarily think that hurts the Switch 2 necessarily. Maybe with Metroid a little bit. It's a little bit risky, but sometimes you got to risk it for the biscuit. But I'm going to say 28%. I can't in good conscience go higher than that. I hope it happens. I'd love to see that game just get a shot to do that. I think it'd be great.
One thing I will say is if Nintendo did it, it would show that they have full faith in this game. Which to be fair, I feel like just on the merits that this game is still coming out, I feel like that alone, and I've talked about this with Dak before, I feel like that alone has showed that they have faith. Because like this game could have easily just been canceled when they made the announcement in 2019, but they didn't. Despite the amount of money they had already sunk in, they decided to restart from scratch and sink in even more money. And to me, that tells me that despite Metroid's niche status, there's something about this game that we don't know about yet that they truly believe in, that they are in, and that they want to invest in. Yeah. And it's not because Nintendo just decided to be nice today. They're a corporation. They want to make profit. They want to make money. They believe that this game will be financially beneficial to them in some way. How that is, I obviously don't know, but I'm very eager to see why.
We'll see. We'll see. And yeah, we'll touch on this as we get to the end here. We got 2 more Samus's percentages here, and well, let's just get right to it. You said earlier you weren't going to predict what this direct is going to be about, and I say you are, because the next question is: this direct is lacking in brand new first-party Nintendo titles, featuring 2 new titles at most. So and let me just clarify that. So when I'm talking brand new, so like if they show a Metroid Fusion remake, doesn't count. If they show ports, doesn't count. I'm talking like a brand new, like last year when they showed off Mario Wonder, whatever else they showed off, I can't remember. But like those are the types of games I'm looking for here. So 2 or less brand new titles from Nintendo.
Okay, so there needs to be at least 3 games.
That's right. So there needs to be Metroid Prime 4. There needs to be Kirby's Adventure in Dreamland 16. And there needs to be, I don't know,
Mario Party,
Kirby's
Mario
Pinball
Baseball
Deluxe, which I'm sure is probably a game that they're going to show. That's what needs to happen.
Oh man, I wish I could look up the last year's June direct right now. I'm just gonna say I'll disagree a little bit. I think there will be 3 original unique titles. Now, I don't necessarily think those are going to be big, big tentpole
They don't have
titles.
to
Again,
be.
I brought up I brought up Mario Party. I feel like Mario Party. It's been 3 years since the last one. That's been heavily rumored. That feels like a pretty safe pick. At the end of the Switch's life cycle, new Mario Party. I think we could get that. I think we could get 3 like smaller tier original titles.
I'm just trying to figure out what those are, because I feel like Kirby he's primed. This is Kirby's moment. Like, this is what Kirby lives for. There's no games to release. What gimmick can we slap on Kirby this month? Like, so Kirby's gonna show up for sure. I could see like, it kind of seems like WarioWare and Mario Party are almost becoming the new Kirby in a sense, where it's like, all right, we don't have anything. Kirby's maxed out. He's already had 6 titles this year. Let's dust off WarioWare. I don't know, man. I don't know what else kind of comes out. You know what I would say, actually? I'm sure that we're going to see the Pokemon Legends game. And I guess that counts because it's already been announced.
I presumed you meant like 3 brand new
I did.
titles.
I did.
That's kind of how I interpreted it. Yeah. So
Maybe
let's
not count that then.
I'm not going to count Pokemon.
I don't know what else there is, man. Like, I'm gonna go higher on this. I'm gonna go. Let's see. The wording is lacking in brand new first party content featuring 2 new titles at most. I'm gonna go 70%.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna do another 35. I can't remember what I used that one for before, but I know I said it earlier. That feels right to me. 35.
I think that was on Metroid Prime 4 being shown or not, which I'm right around the same Samus percentage as you are. We'll see, I guess. I'd be shocked if we didn't see Kirby. I'll tell you that. If Kirby doesn't come out, like, I don't know. Something is wrong with the world. Okay, our last Samus's percentage here, and then we'll just wrap everything up. Metroid Prime 5 comes out within 3 years of Metroid Prime 4 releasing.
Absolutely not. That's a 1%. Especially nowadays with how long game development takes. There's no way.
Why not?
Absolutely no way.
Why not?
3 years? Like, did I hear right? 3 years.
3 years.
It comes out 3. I don't believe that at all. Absolutely not. Even Metroid Dread took 4 years to develop after Samus Returns came out.
New console.
And we're talking exactly. We're talking about the Switch 2 now. We're talking about the Switch 2 now, which is going to take even more development resources. As one of the unfortunate, as much as I like pretty graphics, one of the unfortunate things is once you upgrade in hardware, development time just becomes more and more expensive. It's why you were seeing, back in the Xbox 360 days, you had multiple Halo games. You had an entire Gears of War trilogy on the 360. Nowadays, you're getting one of those on the console because you can't have a studio dedicate all that time to that many games anymore because it takes too long. There's so many assets to produce, and I cannot believe. I mean, it would be incredible if we got a Metroid Prime 5 that was like, the quality we expect from a Metroid Prime game in 3 years. That would be incredible. I wish that was a world we lived in, but I honestly just do not see how that's possible.
I think you're living in fear. I think it's possible. I think that you can. What you're saying is right, and I'm not going to be super high. What I'm about to say makes it sound like I'm really bullish on this. I'm not, but I think the big thing here is reestablishing the engine, getting the engine to work, developing all those new assets, creatures, and stuff like that. If you repurpose a lot of that, similarly to how Metroid Prime 2 and 3 did for the original Metroid Prime, I don't see any reason why there can't be a lot or a quicker turnaround time. Now, 3 years is lofty. I will say that. That's why I chose 3 years. 4 years has been kind of the sweet spot for franchises lately. I was using Xenoblade, Fire Emblem, some of those kind of caliber franchises in terms of like entries in between. I don't know. I'm not dismissing this. I could see this being a quicker turnaround time, particularly if because they've been developing presumably Metroid Prime 4 for Switch 2, and that's what's added to the timeline here. Like if that is all good and ready to go and built, why not? Why couldn't you have that? Like, what else is Retro working on? I mean, obviously nobody knows, but like,
I think Prime 5, if they started working on it after Prime 4, I think it would be a shorter development time than Prime 4. I think I would agree to that, but 3 years, again, I wish it was true, but that just does not reflect the realities we live in today.
Let me ask you a question. So. Final Fantasy VII Remake, when did that come out?
2017.
Came out in 2020. Final Fantasy
2020, yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Remake Rebirth, when did that come out? 2024.
2024.
Just over 3 years. And that is a much, what I'm going to presume, a much bigger undertaking, because you went from, you have, first of all, the graphics, frame rate, all of that is on a higher level, I would presume, than what Metroid Prime 4 is going to be on the Switch 2. And you went from not quite an open world game to a open world game in the second entry. So I do think it can be done. I do think it can be done. Now, like I said, 3 years is lofty. The 3 years is lofty. But I don't know. I didn't give a percent on this, so why don't I'll give mine and we'll wrap this up. I could see. I'm gonna go 40%. I'm gonna go 43%. 43%.
I think that is insanely unrealistic, personally, but I'm happy for you. I will say 4 years does raise my percentage quite a bit. I believe God of War Ragnarok came out 4 years after the original God of War as well. Mm-hmm. And that was also a cross-gen with PS4, PS5. So I could 4 years. I don't know how high I would go off the top of my head. It would go substantially higher, but 3 years, that just feels, because that extra year is, that's 365 days. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of additional development time.
I could see it. We will. We'll see. Yeah, you know what? So that's it for Samus's percentages. But this Nintendo Direct is it's a really important Direct for Metroid, because we are going to get some questions answered. If there's no Metroid Prime 4, I think you can clearly, definitively say at this point, this is a Switch 2 launch game. It's coming out on the Switch 2. Maybe there might be a Metroid Prime 4, and maybe it will be confirmed that it's cross-gen too. I could see that. Either way, I think we're going to get an answer on what Metroid Prime 4 is, when it's coming, roughly, depending on if we see it or not. So this is a big Direct for that game. Big Direct.
Yeah, the status of Metroid Prime 4, that's definitely like the biggest question that we are going to have answered at this Direct. Whether that be directly, pun intended, or indirectly. Again, 3DS ports is another thing that I'm personally interested in. I'm curious to see if Luigi's Mansion 2 is the start of a new initiative, or if that's a one-off. I think this Direct, we're going to get some answers on that. And then I think, judging by the timings of the release, I think if there's any suspicious gaps where there's no release, I think that leaves a possible opening for a full Switch 2 reveal as well. So maybe we don't have a big October release, for example. Mm-hmm. I think that could lead to a possible Switch 2's news cycle. But that's all speculation, but it's fun speculation. I'm so excited for this Direct, even though it's probably going to be a pretty mid-tier Direct. I'm just excited for the potential roadmap that it paints. Yeah,
there's a lot of ramifications to the Direct, even if the Direct itself isn't all that great. Which is kind of what I'm thinking it's going to be. I think it's going to be Port City. I think it's going to be Remake City. Here's you like GameCube games on your Switch? Here's another GameCube game. And whatever, that's fine for the dying days of a console. So we'll see how it goes. I hope they don't announce it for next week, just selfishly, so that I can be back home when that happens. But I guess it would be good to get some updates sooner rather than later too. So we don't have to wait long. That's for sure. We're 10 days into June at this time of recording, and they said it's coming in June, so there's only 20 extra days when it can come. So it won't be a long wait either way, and you know that we're going to be all over it when they do announce that, so check that out. That being said, that's it. That's Samus's percentages, and that is our show for today. Let us know what you think. Give us some of your Samus's percentages. Join our Discord. Let us know if we're crazy, if we're not crazy. I had some pretty bullish percentages on this show, so let us know what you think. And yeah, let's, give us a follow over on social while you're there. Check us out over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Omega Metroid Pod. You can check me out, Spiteri316. Doom is at Doomit'll Cross. go check out the Omega Metroid podcast wherever you get your podcast. Go like, subscribe, rate, recommend, review, all of that fun stuff. If you got a Metroid fan in your life, tell them where they can get their weekly Metroid fix. OmegaMetroid.com has, it has tons and tons and tons of stuff if you're a Metroid fan. Maps, guides, news, information, really everything that you could possibly need and more. There's tons of stuff there, so go check it out. I'm working on a big project for OmegaMetroid.com right now, so that'll be coming out in the next, hopefully, couple of months, so that'll be pretty cool when that goes on. We also have a Patreon, patreon.com/SPNet. And we got the great Metroid area ranking rolling along over there, so it's been a fun ride, so come and check us out there. I think that's all the plugging that we need to do, so what I will say is enjoy the Nintendo Direct hype, have fun speculating, don't be afraid to dream. This is a fun time, so enjoy it, everybody, and until next week, we will see you then. Ciao.